All right, in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everyone, to 1 Minute Recess for our final episode of 2025. We can't wait to break it all down for you and tell you the news here in Nevada. My name's Annette Magnus. Welcome. We can't wait to talk to you tonight. Maria?
And I'm Maria Teresa. As Annette said, this is the last you'll see of us before next year. So we're excited to wrap up what's been a wonderful year. So you want to just dive right in, Annette, and start with, we had some interesting comments on TikTok. So let's start with the rundown, which now is turning into running down
the rundown with our Russian bots.
So we'll start with TikTok, the most interesting one first, and then we'll actually go to YouTube. BS, cool name, commented, and this is particularly on the Very Vegas headline of the workers and people here in Las Vegas who, because of the economy, are resorting to exotic dancing, which is booming. And BS says, just make sure to skip the pennies. I don't know if that's like professional advice, because Annette mentioned she would go into that industry if she ever needed to. Like, if so, thank you very much. I guess we will. Or if it's like the people attending and like, don't tip the pennies, tip them, in cash. Because
or it could be one other thing. The fact that the federal government is totally getting rid of pennies too. I mean, it could be that. But whatever it is, we are pro sex worker on this show, and we are pro whatever you got to do to make a buck. And so, go forth and conquer and tip well.
100%. Tip well, particularly. Also, Amaranth. I don't know if Amaranth knows much about Vegas, or if you live in Vegas, you don't know much anyway. It's why. I think that why is supposed to be a what, Amaranth? It's what Vegas voted for. Why complain?
On which part?
On the video, just entirely. I guess the economy being a failure and people.
Why complain? Because it's my right as an American citizen to complain when my government isn't functioning correctly and when fascists rule. That's why.
Yeah, and by the way, Vegas usually always is blue and was.
Did not vote for Donald Trump. That's why. That's why I can complain.
These two in Vegas did not. Yeah, so no, we didn't.
Rural
Nevada did. The rest of the state did, and not everyone in Nevada did. But
correct. It was very close.
Did not go for Trump. Yeah. So that's a fact check for Amaranth. Now we'll move on to some kind comments from a viewer on YouTube, Lorencita Santos.
Wow.
Wishes us a happy birthday. Wishes us both happy birthday, y'all. Thank you for that. Also, to your very specific hot take, Annette, I also think Wicked 2 is better than Wicked 1. Smiley face.
Me and Lorencita, together forever. Thanks, friend. You're the best. Happy New Year to you.
Also, Happy New Year, Lorencita, and thank you for the birthday wishes. 2 more. Lorencita, also shout out for watching the whole thing, because not many people do, apparently. In this attention economy.
We're just over here talking to ourselves. Whatever.
Fine. I mean, that's literally what we do.
I mean, I would do it anyway, so I enjoy this, so it's fine. I don't care.
On the scandal with the 3 lobbyists who didn't register as lobbyists during the special session, yikes, 3 weird film interest lobbyists getting off scot-free. It's true. Nevada way, getting off scot-free, even though they were clearly lobbying for a very specific issue and client.
Literally, and it's not just on film. They get away with everything.
Yeah, they do. This particularly.
Literally, this is one issue of many that they've just gotten away with over the years. So I guess I shouldn't expect anything more.
Mr. I'm just an economist, Aguero.
Sure, Jan.
And I think when we were talking about another awful trifecta, yes, the ethical pillars of society, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and RFK Jr. That's where we're at. Those are people who legitimately think those 3 people are pillars of society and ethics.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lorenzita, for catching on what's wrong with America and Nevada.
Well, I mean, there's so much. God, what a mess.
One thing I am upset about is that our Russian bot friend who defended Elon Musk's green ponds didn't respond
Oh,
to
he didn't
our...
take the bait this week?
No. I'm very upset.
Lame. Elon Musk, get your bots back in check. Putin, get your bots back in check. Send them our way. We love a good Russian bot.
Yeah. Best.
Lame.
But yeah, that's the rundown from last week.
Speaking of the rundown, before we get to anything else, this week, it's your birthday!
Yeah.
41, baby! How's it feel?
41. It feels exhausting because I put up Christmas decorations today and everything hurts.
Yeah. That's right.
I'm like, what?
Last week after our episode, I got strep throat like a 10-year-old. And then, had a birthday dinner where I was exhausted after. 41 apparently is going to be an exhausting year.
Prelude to 2026.
For those who don't know at home, Marie and I are exactly 1 week apart. It was like we were intended to be sisters.
Yeah.
Sag sisters forever.
It's like you, me, Jesus. All exactly 1 week.
That's the real trifecta here.
You, me, Jesus.
Jeeves.
Cusp with Capricorn.
He's actually a Capricorn.
It's
It's fine. I prefer Capricorns, actually. I really like Capricorns. So they're like the quieter, less whack job version of Sagittarius.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love us. I love Sagittariuses. But, we should do a whole episode on astrology. That'd be a good one. Have an astrologer come on, tell us what's wrong with us.
For real. Yeah.
We'd be here all night.
Literally Sagittarius, and they could just go down all the signs and say.
I mean, at the birthday dinner the other night, there were 5 of us. So apparently we really surround ourselves with Sagittarius in politics.
To stoke the fires. If not,
There's also a lot of Cancers in politics, which is surprising to me. But, there's a lot of that energy, too. The yin and the yang, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense with Cancers, especially because Cancers, I remember forever ago, we were talking about signs with someone, I forget who, and they said Cancers are nice. And I'm like, if you get Nick Marquardt angry, he's not going to be nice. He'll rip your head off, literally. And
I mean, the other 2 that were at dinner with us were Yui and Vita. So,
who are fierce.
I mean, I'm not saying they're nice. What I am saying, though, is very strong people.
Yeah, because the to clarify for all the people that are like, I'm a Cancer and I'm nice. As far as because we were talking about how intense Sagittarius can be, especially in arguments and things like that. And I've seen your husband in an argument and things like that, and his niceness can go out the door if he wants to.
And he's a meticulous debater. I mean, he also has Capricorn in there, though. So, anyways, we'll do a whole story or a whole episode on astrology in the new year because I love it. Maria loves it. We really lean into it in our Sagittarius fire sign ways. We talk about it all the time. It's fun. Tell us what your sign is in the chat. We'd love to know, friends.
Yeah. Extra credit if you tell us your 3.
Yeah. Rising, moon, and sun. If you all could guess. Maria, what's your 3? Do you know?
Obviously, I'm a sun Sagittarius. I am a moon Scorpio, and I am a rising Aquarius.
Interesting. Here's the least shocking thing I'll share with anybody tonight. I'm a Sagittarius sun, I'm an Aries rising, and I'm a Leo moon. All fire signs.
Now,
that's why I needed a water sign to mute me a little.
Yeah. I wonder if people are wondering, things make sense about those 2 now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So that's our astrology rundown.
It's the holiday season. Any fun plans for the holidays?
Not working.
Oh, I love that. I even wore my little holiday Bumble earrings for tonight to celebrate the holiday. From Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, for those who don't know. He's the only one who's got any redeeming qualities in that show. It's also my husband's nickname. Because he looks like him. Anyway, so happy holidays, everyone. We hope you have a wonderful whatever you celebrate. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus for the rest of us. Just eating, gorging yourself. I'm into all of these things.
Yeah.
So have a good one. Hope it's safe. Hope it's wonderful. All right, let's get into local lockdown, lowdown nightmare that is Nevada politics.
We start with a good one. Shout out to Minden for having a
Woo!
protest. And I did not know we had a Starbucks roasting plant in Nevada. We have a Starbucks roasting
Cool.
plant in Minden, Nevada.
I'm not saying cool about Starbucks. I'm saying cool about protesting.
Yeah. And so the story is that protesters were cited for trespassing during a protest at the Minden Starbucks roasting plant. And it was folks from the plant, folks from nearby towns and Reno in northern Nevada, and they all went to protest. It was part of the Red Cup Rebellion, which is going nationwide, and all of the Starbucks locals, because Starbucks is represented by various locals, and they've been unionizing in various places across the country. And also, it's nice to see that it's not just at the cafes or the actual like Starbucks locations, but they're also doing it at places like the roasting plants, which we have one in Nevada. So,
I mean, if you're going to do it everywhere.
Yeah, do it everywhere. So if you live in northern Nevada, now you know. If you ever want to support, they've been protesting and active up there, and you have a big plant, and you can go support them if they ever do something again. But yeah, very, very exciting. Shout out to the folks up in Minden/northern Nevada, and we'll put the link in the news if people want to share, because obviously this doesn't get talked a lot because it's Minden and it's northern Nevada, and a lot of people are very southern Nevada focused. But yeah, it was really, really
cool. Yes.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's awesome. And it was specifically 32 protesters that refused to comply with, because they were trying to break them up. So 32 stood strong. We're like, no, fam, we're staying here. Out of a total of 75. And so they cited them, arrested them. Good job, people, because they are working to, if people don't know what it is, they're seeking resolutions to...
Yeah, talk to us about what the whole thing is about. Because yeah.
So literally is they've had hundreds of unfair labor practices that they've been putting towards different labor boards, but also where they are unionized, the different workers across the country have been trying to work with Starbucks, but Starbucks is not actually coming to the table and working to improve that, even though they have the money to do so. So one of the things that they are trying to do is fix the staffing issue. There have been widespread understaffings. And so, if you're waiting a long time for your Starbucks, wherever it may be, it's not because they're working very slow. It's because...
Hang on, Maria.
One of the biggest issues of these hundreds of unfair labor practices is Starbucks Workers United has been warning and telling the company that they're severely understaffed, pretty much what seems like everywhere, according to what the union keeps saying. And so instead of addressing that and trying to figure out how to either staff people or pay the people more because they're working double because they're understaffed, the company isn't addressing either. So you've got baristas and people all across the company working twice as much because they're understaffed. People are having to wait longer, the customer having to wait longer, and the workers aren't getting paid enough to actually work essentially what would be double work. And so people are working. People are struggling. They're working, and they're struggling financially. As we talked about in this economy, people are even going to work at strip joints and actually go into exotic dancing. And then you've got baristas here that are actually struggling financially, trying to make it work with their company. Company is doing nothing about it because they're also struggling like everyone else.
Fun fact, coffee companies, and before you all get wild on the internet, calm yourselves. I'm not saying Starbucks is wrong here. I'm just letting people know tariffs they are impacting coffee companies in particular deeply. So I know that Samba Latte over here by my house on 215 and Jones just recently closed. So even little coffee shops, especially little coffee shops, are struggling. But I will say the union busting, the not paying people a living wage, things like that, That has been going on for years at Starbucks. The bottom line is, Starbucks, do better. You got the money to do it, so do better.
Yeah, you have money to create special bear cups and specialized cups every season. Maybe cut down there first and try to help out your workers. An idea. So shout out to Minden. Keep it up. And the next one, this is a link that you provided for me, Annette, earlier in the week. I don't know if you want to introduce it and what caught your eye about it.
First of all, I want to preface this by saying I did not write this, and I had nothing to do with writing this. So I do not want to be blamed when people get this article, or when we talk about this article. Maria also had nothing to do with it. We are merely reporting the news. All right.
Who would?
The Reid.
Hang on. I swear there's a name of it. We are not Frank Underhill, everyone. Look at
Nope, not it. Didn't have anything to do with this. I was sent this by another human being. All right, the name of the publication is the Nevada Post, and the title of the article is The Reid Legacy They Didn't Earn. So, a lot of people talk a lot in Nevada politics and outside of Nevada politics about the Reid machine. I think there's some confusion sometimes about what exactly the Reid machine is. So I'll give a little commentary, Maria, on explaining this article. This article will be in the comments, and we'll post a link and everything. But Maria, I'll have you fill in on your colorful thoughts. So the Reid machine has been something that Senator Reid and the people who have worked for him for a very long time have been building in Nevada. Maria and I were very much a part of the Reid machine in our younger years, with the various organizations and groups and people that we worked with. Even when national organizations like Obama's campaign or Hillary's campaign or Kamala's campaign comes through, usually Reid machine people in Nevada go and work on those campaigns. So it is an apparatus that was built when Senator Reid was the majority leader in the federal Senate. And basically the reason it was built was to coalesce power and make sure that Democrats in particular, but specifically Democrats that Harry Reid wanted, were elected to office and stayed in office, and that the Democrats can maintain power in the state of Nevada. Now, this looks a couple of different ways. So, explaining how the apparatus works, there's the party apparatus, which many people come up through, which is very partisan. It's the Democrats, it's all of that. And they have what's called the machine on that side, where they can do really great field programs. They have really good communications programs. Historically, they have been very organized, and they understand, we have to have strong field operations in Nevada. We have to have strong organizing operations in Nevada, because Nevada still operates a little differently as a swing state. We require different resources because people move a lot and people speak different languages here and all of those things. Now, there is a second part of the Reid machine. Technically, it's really three parts, but I'm going to lump these two together. So there's the union apparatus, which is more like culinary, and then all the other unions. And then there's the progressive apparatus. So the progressive apparatus is what Maria and I specifically used to work in. Those are groups like Planned Parenthood or the League of Conservation Voters, which in Nevada is called NCL, or even the Sierra Club or Plan. You name it, those groups are a part of it. Whether they want to be or not, they're a part of it. And those groups sit around what we call tables, and everything is very organized. So we know what voters we're talking to. We know who's going to what doors. We divide them up group by group. We, divide them up by languages. If there's Latino groups, obviously they take the share of Latino voters. If we have AANHPI voters, Those are our Asian friends. Those voters are contacted by, multiple groups, but often the AANHPI groups. So there's a lot of work that goes into being very organized when it comes to our messaging, very disciplined when it comes to our messaging, raising money for that apparatus, and then sending people out in the field, on doors, into the media, to have a coordinated message to get voters out, turn out, educate them on who to vote for, and then actually have them vote. There's a second piece of that infrastructure that they forgot about. Oftentimes those groups would just turn people out and do their work, but unions and progressives also have policy agendas that need to get accomplished once we're out of election season. So we elect these people, and then we send them to Carson City or we send them to Washington, D.C., and we actually expect them to do the things that they promise on the campaign trail. So there's accountability work that goes into that, which often within that machine was met with some resistance. Because oftentimes groups who had policy agendas, like our former employer, we would be the ones being like, no, you said you were going to do this thing on gun violence prevention, or you said you were going to do this thing on the environment, or you said you were going to do this thing on education. And now, politician, you are elected, and we expect you to do the things you said you were going to do, and we expect you to do them the right way. And when they wouldn't, we would hold them accountable, and then we were told just to shut up, eat the shit sandwich, and go back and get them reelected. And that's oftentimes where Annette and Maria would butt heads with said machine, because I'm not very good at shutting my mouth. Maria's not very good at just eating shit sandwiches and shutting up. And so if we were going to reelect these people, then they actually had to do the things that they said they were going to do. And so that's where the rub often comes in with the machine. And I will say, for what it's worth in terms of the turnout, in terms of gaining power and gaining control of the legislature, taking seats back congressionally, I think the Reid machine has been very successful. Enacting progressive legislative policies, moving the needle when it comes to legislative items we need them to take action on in the legislative building or in Carson City, not so much. There were some wins I can think about that I'm very proud of participating in, but there's still a lot of really important shit that needs to be done that is often met with huge amounts of resistance from the people at the top of the Reid machine. So, Maria, now that I've explained to our viewers kind of what the Reid machine is, and happy to answer questions in the chat, because not everybody understands what we're talking about when we talk about this. You kind of got to live it and experience it. Talk to me about this specific article, run through the article, and talk to me about your feelings on the matter.
Absolutely. And since we're just talking about and I think it's very important for people to actually see what the article is about, so I'll just share my screen so that people can follow along with us in case you would rather do that and not. Okay, so the title of it, and I'll start at the bottom, because if you go to the bottom you'll actually see why it's very fitting to do this or post or article on the Nevada Post by the way, Frank Underhill, underlining it there. Frank Underhill. And it's because John Ralston is writing his biography, which will probably come out next year. And so it is very fitting to remember Harry Reid. And if many people are wondering, why do people have such a thing for Harry Reid after this, I'll do it now, because this will actually make sense. It'll make this article make a lot more sense. So the reason why a lot of people love Harry Reid, people also may disagree with many things he did and all of that, but there was just something very Nevada about Harry Reid. He was someone, this was back in 2013, so forever ago, when he was at the height of his power, basically as the majority leader of the Senate, making him one of the most powerful people in the country, arguably the world. So he did a lot of really cool shit. They literally made a graphic of him riding a nuclear weapon into that. But the toughest thing, the coolest things about Harry Reid, and why he was a badass. One, he had a tougher childhood than probably most of us. He was born in the middle of the damn desert near nothing, and literally lived in something that made Lincoln's log cabin look like a mansion. That's where Harry Reid was born and raised, literally a shack in the desert. And this is one of my favorite things about Harry Reid. He was a boxer. He can actually probably literally kick your ass. When he had a black eye, I totally thought he got in a fight in an alley in Washington, D.C. Probably is actually what happened. But that's him as a boxer. And he once said, "The black eyes and swordness to me were badges of honor to wear the next day, and I'd fight every chance I got," is what he wrote in his autobiography. So then he also, the third coolest thing about him was that he would fight you in a bar, because he actually was famous for starting bar fights in his hometown. And he punched his future father-in-law in the face. Because they didn't think they should get married. So he punched his future father-in-law in the face. Ended up still getting married. He was actually a U.S. Capitol police officer and protected the Capitol with a gun because he was actual law enforcement. And he did that in order to pay his bills. And so he had a lot of interesting things. Another thing, he choked someone once. And this is as he was gaming commissioner. So if people really want to know why he's so Nevada, he was a gaming commissioner. And there's many scenes in the movie Casino, and there's a gaming commissioner that's modeled after him. But in one of the sting operations that inspired that movie, he choked someone. Someone that was trying to bribe him as gaming commissioner. That is the Nevada way to handle things. And here you can see the scene in the movie Casino that he basically inspired. He also, and this is probably the coolest part, he survived a car bomb that was planted by the mafia. So he is one of the most Nevada people. So people are very passionate about Harry Reid because he represents the grit of Nevada. I mean, boxer, choked someone, bar fights. He really was Nevada. And so his legacy for a lot of people matter. And that Reid machine that Annette was talking about is something that has been talked a lot in politics. And I think this article brings up a very important conversation to have as he's going to be reintroduced into the discourse and the consciousness, especially in Nevada, is what was that legacy really about? And that's what this article does. And I think I won't read the whole thing, but I'll highlight some things. A lot of people, because they don't play inside baseball, aren't aware that it was his leadership that really helped put Nevada on the national stage politically, and also helped elevate a guy with a strange name, Barack Obama, when much of the Democratic quote-unquote establishment really wanted Hillary to win the primary. And he was like, I don't know, I'm backing the guy with the funny name. And also, he was really one of the main reasons why we got the Affordable Care Act passed. Very important piece of legislation. He was the one that really held together the Senate caucus, which was all over the place. And one of the things that we see here is after Reid's passing, something changed. People have adopted his name without adopting his principles. They spoke about the Reid machine as if it were a transferable asset rather than something earned through decades of work. What they inherited was the aura of Reid, not his integrity or capability, and the results are visible everywhere. So that is the crux of this, is that Harry Reid...
Well, we should also mention too... Hang on. We should also mention, too, Harry Reid, once he gained power, is who really started to set up these apparatuses, right? He really made the party what it was today. He really, with his power, influence, ties to money, he really made the progressive infrastructure what it is today. He's the reason our former organization came to Nevada, right? He really invested time, energy, and money to set up these organizations, to set up these apparatuses and get things highly organized for future work. So that is why he's also tied to so much of this.
Yeah, exactly. And that is part of that aura and sort of that he created. So what Annette just mentioned, everything that was essentially created because of Reid, because he was a smart man. He apparently, I don't know if part of the lore was that he always had a notebook of like basically what the senators in the US Senate needed, wanted, etc. So basically pain points when it would come to negotiate. That's part of the lore that's been said verbally around. So one of the important things that the values that Reid put in, or that you could see in his work, was that he demanded, when he was alive, he demanded excellence and accountability at every level. Like truly demanded it. And you could see it just by the way he operated. Watch any video of him where he talks about hating fluff, hating networking with people. He would rather work. He was someone that really did this work because it was important. Even if you disagreed with him, you could see that. You could see that he really gave a shit. Anybody that is told to run up and down a hill near Boulder City creates this value in themselves to where they demand excellence and accountability. And what this article really does is highlight that after Reid's passing, something has changed. And something in that apparatus doesn't have that demanding of excellence and accountability. There might be a lot of demanding because there's a lot of these consultants and people, no shade to all consultants, but it's a lot of consultants and people that are vying to show who is the true heir of the aura of Reid or the legacy of Reid. And what people are noticing, people that have been in and out of this work for a long time, is that it is not the same. It is not the same without him, that he was really the core that brought in these values, brought in this intelligence to make the infrastructure from Nevada up to the national level be what it was. And without him, something is missing. And so it bodes the question is, one, what was really the legacy about? And two, who owns it? And what's missing? What is it that makes it to where, and you can see in that article, when you read it, that there have been a lot of losses. There's a lot of drama, apparently, in the party. And there's this feeling of nothing's really getting done. And that if Mr. Reid himself would be alive, that would not be tolerated. And I have a lot of feelings about this, but I wanted to present first so that people understood what that article is about. Before I dive into my feelings and thoughts, what are you thinking?
All I'm going to say, and I'm not going to say anything else, because I think people can read it all over my face. And if you know me, you know why I feel this way. The article ain't wrong. And whoever wrote this knows quite a bit about the system and knows quite about the flaws in the system. And Maria and I did a lot of pushing back when we were in our former employer. I know a lot of people always thought we were right in there, part of that machine. Outwardly, it looked like it, but we made a lot of enemies within the machine for pushing back as hard as we did, especially on some of the harmful shit they did. And I don't regret a single moment of pushing back on them. I don't regret now pushing back on them. And this article is refreshing. And honestly, more people need to start talking about the problems with it, because the machine has been twisted and tainted and turned into something that it was not intended to be. But, you know, those with a lot of power, they often get corrupted. And here we are. Read the article. If you want to know more, read the article, because there will be people who deny it until the cows come home. Oh, this isn't real. This isn't what's happening. This isn't the vibe. No, the article is the vibe. I'm not going to. If you know me, you know I don't bullshit. That article, whoever wrote it, I was like, oh, Somebody from the inside knows what's going. They are the ones who spilled the beans here.
It's Harry Reid himself from heaven.
Yeah,
Going
from the
on a
grave.
jail
Yes.
fam from under his Joshua tree.
Ugh.
My thought, and this is a thought that I've had for a long time about a lot of the people who claim to own the Reid legacy. And I don't think anybody owns the Reid legacy.
No one owns it. Yeah.
No, because, I mean, it's a spirit. It's a spirit that pretty much anybody that has had to actually work really hard in Nevada has, just naturally. Whether you're a Republican, you probably disagree with everything under the sun that he or any of us stand for. You can probably agree. Very Nevada grit he had, especially to move the state forward and himself forward. Harry Reid would not have been someone that would allow people to be arrogant, to be risk averse, conflict averse. I mean, he choked someone. He punched his future father-in-law.
Wait, he was a fellow Sagittarius. Sagittarius, let us not forget these facts.
Exactly. He signed my boxing gloves. He was someone that was a fighter and demanded a lot from people. And I think one of the things that has been lost is that demand for excellence and accountability, because ultimately I think a lot of people see this work as a way to make connections and make money, or to just be where the power is and all of that, and not actually get anything done. And Reid himself wasn't like that. Reid himself was someone that had a single mother, lived like shit, and wanted to make sure people didn't live as bad as he did and have a better life. Genuinely, you could see that. Someone that doesn't need a lot of talking points, because I remember once we honored him at Celebrate Progress, and when I picked up my boxing gloves that he signed, I noticed he left it wasn't really talking points, it was his little, I have them somewhere, it was his little notebook paper that was this big. In his handwriting, he just had bullet points of things that, like, we've done as Battleborn Progress and things to talk about. Someone who is like that, someone who just speaks from the heart and doesn't need a lot of practice, is someone that is doing this for the right reasons, usually. But the problem is, you have people that were very dictatorial, and not for good things, and I'm not saying, I don't want to say this. There were many people that I met that were part of this idea of owning the Reid machine who I remember I did not really want to talk to, I did not want to be part of, didn't want to get to know them. And I remember particularly one of them would ask you, she can just come to me and she can ask me questions and things like that. And I remember telling you, this person is very arrogant, and I do not want to have a relationship with this person, And then years later, come to find out, someone that wasn't very loyal, someone that wasn't very open, and someone that wasn't very honest, and indeed was very arrogant. I remember in that moment thinking back to, I just had this feeling, I had this gut instinct, and thinking Reid himself wouldn't be such a piece of shit. Like, he would probably be an asshole when he needed to be, but there's a difference between being an asshole that gets things done and being an asshole just to be an asshole and wield your power over someone, and sometimes even threaten people's livelihoods, and not even for good reason. Like,
listen, there's a reason I'm not over here talking very much.
Like,
it's like the mob
approach.
It is like the mob, and that's what people don't get, is that it's like the freaking mob. They will come for you in the night.
And you know what drives me crazy? It's not even for good reason. Right? It's not because you've legitimately fucked up and you need to be.
No, it's because you're dissenting. You're saying, please don't do something harmful.
You are dissenting. Yeah. And you are truly dissenting for a good reason.
Look at this shirt I wore. Look at this shirt I wore for today's conversation.
Yeah, it's truly those people are not the legacy of Reid. And they can probably say whatever they want, that maybe they had this kind of experience with him, whatever. Don't care. The legacy of Reid, you are not someone that most of the people that claim to own his legacy are not people that inspired anything out of me in this work. There are people that also worked with Reid that I've met through our work, like different people that worked in his office and all of a sudden are working for this organization, that are not very visible. So people that worked with Reid that are not visible, that are probably not the people that this article is talking about, that I think really are a testament to his legacy. People that just kind of like went off, worked for different nonprofits, are a lawyer here, a lawyer there, a fundraiser here, a fundraiser there. Just
lead with kindness.
Get their job done, lead with kindness. They're tough when they need to be. They demand accountability when they need to, but they're not arrogant. They're not assholes, and they don't try to walk all over. Because I think there's
and
a
here's
difference
the thing:
between wielding power and walking all over people, which is what the people that act like they own the Reid legacy do.
I talk very much about why I left my former employer. But I will say this. One of many reasons why I left, and ultimately Maria left as well, is I was sick of being a doormat. And I was sick of being told to eat shit sandwiches and pretend like they were delicious and then go reelect these people who make us eat shit sandwiches. I was also tired of being told to stay in my place and ultimately just being a cog in a wheel where honestly they feel like you're replaceable, right? They feel like you are just one of many, that so many are just chomping at the bit to get into these roles and positions. I was in my role for 10 years. I rebuilt that organization from the ground up. I made, with Maria and some of the people on our team, remade that organization into what it is. And I was just tired. You were tired of being told to bow down and kiss the ring and do what we're told and just shut up. And it got to the point where it got so bad, I didn't even know if I wanted to come back into Nevada politics or not, because I was just so over the whole thing. And that's when I decided, you know what, I can chart my own path here. I can do my own thing. I can start my own business. I can dabble in those things, but not be a part of the machine and be able to keep my soul intact. Right? And, you know, now they'll deem me a sellout or they'll deem me this or that. You know what? I'll be a sellout any day over dealing with what we used to have to deal with. Because at least I'm at peace. And at least, frankly, I'm not being abused anymore by what some of the folks who are in that system do. Because it can be downright abusive at times. And they always wanted to paint me and Maria as a problem because, again, we wouldn't just shut up and sit down. And so then they started having other people spin these stories about how we were mean or how we were aggressive or, you know, at times telling us we were crazy or talking about our mental health issues. And enough's enough. Like, go fuck yourselves. I don't need any of them. I don't want to have any of them in my life. And I think both of us are better off for being out of it. And again, I think that this article it was very interesting because, like I said, somebody who knows how this works really understands what they were writing and what they were talking about. This is somebody who's lived this. It has to be, because it talks about, you know, Reid's real legacy is not the group that now uses his name. His legacy is the philosophy: confront corruption, invest in people, build coalitions that outlast election cycles, use power to achieve real outcomes, and never forget who you serve. I mean, like, that is Reid's true legacy. That's what he was building when he was building the Reid machine. And I really do think that some of these folks have taken that and frankly adulterated it and turned it into their own machine for their own money gain and political gain at the expense of actual Nevadans, at the expense of like real people. The line that spoke to me, being somebody who's been in this movement for a very long time, 20 years. And let's remind everybody how Annette started. I started outside of the Reid machine. I worked for Congresswoman Titus, who, for all intents and purposes, in that gubernatorial race in 2005, 2006, when she ran for governor, she was running against the Reid machine to start with. When Jim Gibbs' son ran against her in that primary, Harry Reid put him up against her. And then she beat him, and then she ran against Gibbons, but they had basically depleted her funds so much and just put her in this horrible position to try and go against Gibbons that she lost. So this is I've always kind of been on the outside of the machine. It wasn't until I started working for the nonprofit space that I was then put into the machine. And this is the line that stood out to me the most. Reid built a machine that elevated new leaders. Today's establishment actively destroys them. And just speaking from personal experience, I mean, there were moments where I was fucking suicidal. There was moments where I didn't know if I wanted to come back. All because that sentence is the truest part of this entire article. Once you dissent, once you are not a part of the system, once you are not a yes person anymore, they actively seek to destroy you. Well, they lost. I win. Happier now than I've ever been. Thank you for trying to destroy us. Look at us now.
And thank you, quote unquote, Frank Underhill. Love that pseudonym. By the way, whoever wrote this or runs the Nevada Post, feel free to reach out to us. If that is your pseudonym and you want to remain anonymous, cool. But fans of this article, very accurate. Very, very accurate. And the fact that we have people, because you got shared it, I got shared it, the fact that there's people talking about this article and I'll have similar feelings about it and thoughts, and maybe cannot and will not, and that's understandable, say it publicly, says a lot about the fact that, like you said, it's someone that has been a part of this, knows this a lot, and is taking this time to say, hey, there's a problem here. Like there's a problem
because there's a problem because enough people now have had it happen to them. And if you talk to people, the people who are like, hey, did this happen to you too? Right? It's like an unspoken thing in Nevada politics of like stories of how this has transpired in their lives. And it's just not okay. Like, it's not okay. None of that is okay, right? At the cost of winning. Not at the cost of the good for Nevadans, at the cost of winning. Because that is what this really is about. It's about Democrats winning. And listen, we talk every week, I think, very openly and frankly and candidly about both Democrats and Republicans. I'll shit on them both. I have a very long history, and so do you, of holding both Democrats and Republicans accountable, especially when they do dumb shit. And I will continue to do that. And that is the part that the Reid machine did not like about us in our former jobs, and probably still doesn't like about us to this very day, is like, I don't give a shit who you are. If you're doing something that is harmful to Nevadans, I'm going to call you on it. Like, that's just who I am. That's just who you are. And so, read this. If you're listening, you've listened this far, I knew Maria was going to make this article like the centerpiece of this, because it's too important not to talk about. And I was really hesitant. This is the mental health things that they do to us. I was hesitant to bring this up on the podcast because I still have to work with these people. I still have to work in Nevada politics. I was hesitant to even talk about this. That says everything it should, especially from someone like me who runs her mouth on a regular basis. And for those of you who say, that's not a real thing, or, oh, it's not that bad. It is, and you've been indoctrinated to think that this behavior is okay. This behavior is not okay. What they do in the machine to good leaders, to good people, especially women and women of color, it is fucking unacceptable. And it's taken me 2.5 years to get to this point to be able to even say those words. And the way they like pit each other, I think the thing that bothers me still to this day the most, Maria, and you can talk about this too, I know, they would pit us against other women, right? There's one woman in particular who is one of my very dear friends now. I adore her. I'm still very close with her. She still runs an organization. And they would pit us against each other because they knew if her and I were friends or if her and I worked together, we would be far more powerful. And so it took me a long time to realize you're saying things about this person or you don't like this person because you're being manipulated into not liking these people for these reasons. Not that I actually didn't like this person, I actually adored this person. And so it's just that toxic culture that, especially once you get out of it and you are an outsider looking in, which thank God I am, you see the damage, the harm that is caused by those types of things in politics. And that is not the kind of politics that I want to work in. And there are so many people in that movement who are my friends, who are my colleagues, who I have the privilege to work with all the time, who I adore. And they stay for various reasons, and I respect that. But there's a lot of us who have gotten out of it now who are like, whew, well, that was a problem. Because it is.
Absolutely. And so, to all of the people that did all of those things and think they own the Reid legacy, no, you don't.
Nobody does.
No.
That's a Nevada legacy. That's an all of us legacy.
Only one thing, and its various one things, own the legacy. The Joshua trees out of next to Searchlight. If you ever, and Searchlight is his hometown, drive by Searchlight, surrounded by Joshua trees. The Joshua trees of Nevada own Reid legacy because he loved Joshua trees, hated palm trees.
Senator Reid. I mean, I even clashed with Senator Reid back in the day. I remember when I was at Planned Parenthood. This is one of my favorite stories. I was at Planned Parenthood. I had just kind of started over there, and he had done something dumb on birth control because, he was still old and old school and Mormon, and he was just not good on the issue of like birth control at that point. And I went to the Paradise Dems, which were still a thing at the time. And he was speaking there, and I remember I was in the back of the room, and I raised my little, 22-year-old hand, and I asked him, Senator Reid, why won't you pass blah, blah, blah on birth control? And like went into this little thing. He called my national organization and was like, who the fuck is this child? And why is she asking this question? Never a dull moment. Anyways.
But then, years later, you were on the
He was great on the issue. He ended up doing a lot, especially for the ACA.
And see, that is Reid's legacy. Clash, he got his Sagittarius on and was like, who are you? And then years later, right on the issue, and went to when we were at our former employer, and we honored him at one of our dinners, and us and our staff at the time made it on the cover of the New York Times with him, which was wonderful. Nevada. That's the Reid legacy.
The weirdest politics of all. Nevada politics. All right. There's a lot happening in the world this week, so let's get into it. WTF is happening around the globe and here at home, Maria, nationally. First, wouldn't be a week in the United States of America without talking about gun violence. Sadly, though, we're also talking about gun violence in Australia. Bondi Beach, there was a shooting over the weekend at a Hanukkah festival where various people, including Holocaust survivor, rabbis, children, were hurt or killed, and it being reported that it's obviously hate-related, Jewish hate-related. Obviously atrocious. But the one at Brown, obviously there was a shooting there this weekend, another tragedy on American soil, than this thing that happened in Australia. What I want to focus on is the difference in the response. Because there's the American response to gun violence, which happens on a weekly basis. And then there is the Australian response to gun violence. And I think the contrast has, with two horrific tragedies happening back to back in one weekend, there are two different responses happening here. The Brown University shooting, they're still, I think at this point, they're still looking for the shooter. At the last I checked, it's hard to keep track because, there's so many goddamn shootings in this country. But, they are still looking for the shooter. It's crazy because that shooting is like a little blurb on the side of CNN right now. And the Australian shooting is like the big part of on CNN right now. But they're still looking for the suspect in the shooting. Obviously, fear across the campus, gripping the campus now because they haven't found the shooter. There was a person at the shooting who had survived another mass shooting. So now we're re-traumatizing people in our country. Meanwhile, In Australia, the Prime Minister literally came out the day after it happened, after this anti-Semitic attack happens in Australia, and they've already started to propose and move legislation to enact stricter gun laws there. Now, they've already got pretty good gun laws there. So you have to have a license there, you have to have various other things to own firearms, but now because they had multiple long guns with them, now they're talking about maybe limiting the number of guns people can own, rechecking those licenses more frequently, like actual action. And I saw on the internet, well, Australia, has strict gun laws, and there was a shooting. There was one shooting. There was one. Now, it's a horrific one. Hate crime, horrific, but Australia doesn't have them weekly, my friends. This is a blurb here in America. This is a huge national and international story in Australia because it rarely happens there. That is the difference. Their gun laws actually work.
And that person, the brown student you mentioned, if you read her story, she survived the shooting, but she got shot in high school. She was actually shot in the abdomen. And she was talking about how she survived that in high school, has become an advocate for gun violence, goes to Brown, and now gets active shooter alerts again. And meanwhile, you don't have that you have these people that have died, and those that survive are going to have this trauma. But the likelihood of them in a few years suffering multiple gun violence crimes is not as high as it is here. Here, we actually, so at our birthday dinner, there were kids there of school age. And I remember a couple of them talking about how they're actually afraid all the time of going to school. They're actually genuinely frightened. And, it isn't something that is taboo, because I was talking to one of the parents about it. We were talking about just school security, and one of the kids piped up and said, I'm actually afraid, all the time, legitimately afraid that it will happen to me in my school.
It's crazy.
That feeling is not the same. That's why this shooting that happened in Bondi Beach is so shocking, because it doesn't happen there. And like you mentioned, Annette, they're actually talking. They're not saying thoughts and prayers and then just leaving it at that.
No.
They're actually saying, we need to do something about this, and let's figure out how this happened and mitigate it with good common sense policy.
It's so frustrating to me, as people who've worked on this issue for a decade or more, to see us do the same thing. So I was just scrolling through our fearless, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, the fearless leader in his Twitter account, Donald J. Chump. He put up something blathering about the attack at Brown. That's like, the huge thoughts and prayers, right? No action, just thoughts and prayers. This is heinous, thoughts and prayers. The Prime Minister in Australia was like, this is horrible. The dude that tackled the shooter is a national hero. We're going to support this dude. And I'm announcing Australia's plans to strengthen, and I'm reading from CNN right now. I'm announcing Australia's plans to strengthen its already tough gun laws with new measures that will restrict who gets a license. They already have licenses. And they're going to further restrict. They're like, nah, we ain't doing this. This is dumb. This is crazy. We don't want to be like US. That's real leadership. That's actual action on this issue. It's crazy to me. That is how we should react anytime there's a shooting, right? We shouldn't have this many shootings because we're all numb to it now. And so we think thoughts and prayers is just the way you deal with it. And then when you actually you juxtapose a shooting in the US the day before a shooting in another country, and you see the reactions, totally different reactions. One is appropriate, which is thoughts and prayers in action. And then one is, well, thoughts and prayers and let's do nothing as usual. YOLO. We can't do anything. YOLO. We can't do anything. It's not our problem. Now, mind you, then the right always loves to say, well, a good guy with a gun is the only way we're going to stop these mass shootings. I'd like to remind all of you troglodytes that a good guy with the gun is not who stopped the Australian shooting. It was a fruit stand owner who literally tackled the dad who was a shooter. because it was a father-son terrorist duo. And the fruit stand man went over and was like, yeah, not today, and tackled the dude and took the gun from him while the son shot the fruit stand man.
Yeah, and I know of a lot of people that in the October 1 shooting here, there is many like influencers and country singers who are like well-known right-wingers, like Dan Bilzerian and stuff, who's a big-time Trumper. And well, I'm sorry, did you all go get your guns and actually join the police officers?
No, they ran.
Help find the guy. They ran the other way, and
just like any other normal person.
And they didn't even help other people. Like there were people legitimately like
on the ground
people to the hospital, helping people into cars because ambulances weren't getting there fast enough. A lot of these people weren't even good guys, period. Much less with a gun.
You brought up 1 October. So let's just compare the numbers, okay? So in the US, there are multiple mass shootings in a year, right? Every month, there are multiple mass shootings in the United States of America. Every day, there are shootings in the United States of America. For the shooting in Australia, at least 15 people have been killed and 27 are in the hospital after the shooting in Sydney. The attack was already declared a terrorist incident targeting Jewish Australians and is the country's worst mass shooting in almost 30 years. 30 years! Not 30 days. 30 years! Now, this is a horrific attack. That is a lot of freaking people, right? It should never have happened. It should never happen. Gun violence is an epidemic. We should not have this as a problem. We do. Obviously, and it's in the other countries too. But not in the way it is in the United States of America. Because that number of people die all the time in mass shootings in the U.S. Look at the number of people who were killed in our own backyard in Las Vegas on 1 October. What was it? 49 people were just killed. And I think it ended up being 50 because somebody ended up dying from their injuries later on. That doesn't even count the number of people who were injured and the number of people who have lasting mental health trauma from it. And that happens all the time in this country. This is 30 years. And you want to sit here and say gun laws don't work? The worst one in 30 years in Australia. Tell me again that gun laws don't work. Bullshit. I call bullshit.
And what's wild is that I remember only because when we were first starting to work on, or at least when I first started to work with you on gun violence, I remember hearing a lot about how in that mass shooting 30 years ago in Australia, around 30 years ago, that's the one that made the country, I think it was at a shopping center, and it made the country have a reckoning because it has a huge gun culture. Like it has a lot of rural areas, it has hunting. As a big background. And so people had their guns, but this shooting caused a reckoning in the country. And they started to make progress then, and that people willfully were giving up their weapons, that they didn't need anymore because of what happened. And then 30 years later, they get another one, but it's 30 years later. Like, I would love to live in Australia, is what that tells me, honestly.
I've been raging about it all weekend.
Here we have children afraid to go to school.
Yeah. I remember when Columbine happened and all of us were freaked the fuck out. Mm-hmm. And look how many shootings have happened since then. Yeah.
And now it's ingrained. I remember we were once interviewing someone for an internship, and they mentioned to us that gun violence is a big deal for her. She hasn't suffered it yet, but she actually, whenever she goes to like her first day of school, every class would clock what is the desk nearest to like a window she could like open up and leave.
Literally, I was at Wicked.
That's her decision of where to sit.
Yeah, no, literally, 3 weeks ago. Still look for where the exits are in a movie theater. Because Americans are that traumatized by gun violence. And the problem is it could happen anywhere. It can happen at a grocery store, a church, a synagogue, anywhere in this country. I mean, and clearly...
open air concert.
In the middle of the desert from a hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well... That's depressing. In other news as to why our country is literally steaming pile of shit. Last ditch and likely to fail. The House GOP is finally ready to act on healthcare. This comes from MS Now. It's an article on there. We'll post it. House Republicans are getting ready to vote on healthcare this week. Their proposal isn't likely to go anywhere.
And if you're wondering,
great job, everyone.
Watching or hearing
Way
us,
to make a deal with them.
If you're watching and hearing us and you're wondering, well, Annette, MT, what is their proposal? No one knows. No one knows. But we do know, according to the stealthy reporting from MS Now, of, I assume, staffers telling them that it doesn't have anything to address the actual problem, which is the subsidies that are about to expire. And even a Republican...
You mean the whole reason we shut the government down?
Yeah. Even a Republican who went on the record, Kevin Kiley, Republican from California, so shout out to Rep. Kiley, said, there is no policy, so it doesn't matter what we put in this bill. Nothing will have more of an impact on affordability than doing something about the expiration of these subsidies. Like, that's, a Republican is saying, this is the only problem. These subsidies are going to expire, and that's going to fuck everyone. And put it in, like, lay people terms. But the proposal, we don't know what it has, but apparently it doesn't have that, the one thing that needs to be done before they go on break.
That's right.
Good job.
But hey, Dems, you keep trying to make deals with those Republicans, because they're not going to screw you. Everything's going to be fine. You keep trying to make those deals with them. See how that works for you. Yeah, good job, everyone.
Mike Johnson and his crew are...
Literally, Mike Johnson was like, go fuck yourselves. We need to listen to you.
Yeah, you literally have I want to say a tiny Republican from California going, this is terrible. Mike Johnson doesn't even care about his own Republicans saying these things.
There's one last issue we have to talk about, because Donald Trump, yet again, is a gross human being. So we talked a lot earlier. We'll reminisce for a few minutes about the late 2025 episodes of 1 Minute Recess. So one of our episodes was on the death of Charlie Kirk by gun violence. And the responses to that, you know, how the president reacted to that, how the Republican Party reacted to that, when people were criticizing Charlie Kirk for his political stances in the wake of his death. And a lot of conversation around First Amendment, free speech, what is correct, the moral high ground. You know, the Republicans really wanted to claim the moral high ground. You know, this was a horrific tragedy, which it was, and nobody should be a victim of gun violence. And people who were criticizing Charlie Kirk were just abominations, horrible people. Well, over the weekend, actor, director Rob Reiner and his wife were brutally murdered at their home. They're saying potentially by his son. Unclear. We'll see in the coming weeks what actually happened. But the president decided to tweet, to take to his Truth Social, whatever the fuck it is, and basically say that Rob Reiner was deranged. He had Trump derangement syndrome, and that is why he's killed. And I enjoyed this take on the Trump movement, because it says, and this is on CNN, one of the downsides of serving in President Donald Trump's movement is that the moral high ground is extremely unsteady terrain. Should you choose to stake out the moral high ground on a given issue, it is quite possibly that Trump will later do something that will completely undermine you. But rarely has that been the case, like it was on Monday, after the apparent homicide deaths of Rob Reiner and his wife. Hang on, Trump administration officials and the MAGA movement had spent months crying foul about the mostly random people, which is true, who they said celebrated and politicized Charlie Kirk's September assassination, with some Republican elected officials even calling for those people to lose their jobs. And we saw that here, right? Like, we saw teachers going after teachers for them saying what they felt about it. Trump and some of his allies also use it as a basis of their own dubious claims that the political left is more violent than the political right, and even to legitimize a government crackdown on leftist organizations, which, by the way, they've been itching to do since they got into office. But Monday, the roles were suddenly reversed, and it was more than a random person dancing on the grave of a political foe. It was Donald Trump himself. Trump began a post on True Social by calling the deaths of Reiner and his wife a very sad thing and wished that they rest in peace. But then the president spent most of the post deriding Reiner for his left-leaning anti-Trump policies, even suggesting Reiner had brought his own demise upon himself. So, I just want to say to the political right in this country, I need you to show up with the same energy you show up with anytime one of your beloved people has something happen to them. You need to bring the same energy to every single conversation and not be a damn hypocrite, because you don't get to cry foul when people say mean things about Charlie Kirk, and then your own fucking president goes on there and says heinous shit about an actor he didn't agree with who was brutally murdered. Just saying, don't be a pack of hypocrites, right? And sure, it's a free country. Donald Trump can say whatever the hell he wants. But we're not over here calling for his... Well, I'd love for him to lose his job. But yeah, he can say whatever the fuck he wants. But as the leader of the free world, he's held to a different standard than just random people on the internet. That's all I'm going to say. Maria, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and that's part of the problem. Like, because y'all have never actually held him accountable from the very beginning since he rode down that stupid escalator. That's why we're here. That's why the economy sucks. And yes, I will blame you all, because we have a thing called primaries. If y'all Republicans would have gotten it together and would have figured out he was a con man and a piece of shit human being, we might not be in this scenario. Just saying. Just like all the people saying, if there's a Democrat in the Epstein files, show us their picture so we can get them out.
Right here. Name them. Name them with your full chest. If there's a Democrat in the Epstein files, name them. I want every single one of them drugged. Republican, Democrat, nonpartisan.
Republicans.
Drag them.
Republicans are the biggest little snowflakes that you can't come for theirs. You can't come for their own. No. Bullshit. Call him out. He's a piece of shit for saying that and for many other things. Ugh.
Today, I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. We spent a whole episode on Charlie Kirk explaining why people have the right to say whatever they want to say, because it's a free fucking country and you have a freedom of speech. Now, I may not agree with your speech, but you do have freedom of speech, right? Yeah. Where are all the people whining when Charlie Kirk said heinous shit, or when people said heinous shit after Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Rob was assassinated too. Where are you, you hypocrites? These people are silly. They should not be taken seriously. They cannot. They refuse to hold their dear leader accountable in any way, shape, or form, and it's absolutely disgusting to me. They should not be taken seriously.
Absolutely not.
It's the last show of 2025, Maria. We're going to take a little holiday break. I may go to a different country for a little bit. And then we're going to come back the second week of January. January 12th, we will be back for our first episode of 2026. So the week of January 12th, we will be back on air. Let's think grander. What is your 2025 hot take or headache? Let's think bold for the end of the year.
Okay, I have it. My hot take is that real shit happens in communities, in people getting creative. And the evidence to back that up is what we have seen across the country in these ICE raids. And it hasn't been Congress, it hasn't been elected officials, it hasn't even been state elected officials that have made a difference in helping people in those moments. It has been also because of design, because nobody can help, but it's the people, like the kids creating the whistle bags so that they could give each other to school, so that in case, they're ever around and they see an ICE agent, they can just start whistling so that people know. All the trainings that organizations are doing all across the country, where they're training people, all the different roles you can take if you see an ICE raid. all the moms, the white moms, that are offering to take the kids to school and to the bus stop so that the others can stay home locked up so that they don't get arrested or captured. Really, it's not arrested, captured, kidnapped.
Kidnap.
That is my hot take of the year, that it's creative community solutions that have gotten us by for 2025, and it's what's going to keep us going for as long as this nightmare lasts.
Yeah, real people are the only thing we have. Community support, mutual aid. That's all that's going to get us through this nightmare, because our leaders ain't coming to help us at this point. Let's see, what's my hot take? I think it actually has to do with the Epstein files, because so much of what happened with Donald Trump's administration in 2025 was an effort to distract us and to move the ball away from the Epstein files being exposed. And I think about it, I mean, even back to, the beginning of his administration over the summer, the whole thing of him trying to poo-poo and distract and do horrible shit to get us off of the fact that I firmly believe Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, along with many other people, and they should all be exposed. I guess my hot take, or just take generally on 2025 and going into 2026, is don't let them distract you. We can do multiple things at once. We can hold them accountable for the heinous shit that they're doing every day, where they're doing Nazi shit, kidnapping people in real life, and going after organizations who disagree with them, going after people who disagree with them, doing horrible things in international waters, doing horrible shit and turning Europe against us, turning other countries against us, his friendship with Putin, all of this garbage. We can hold him accountable for all of these things, for making prices go up, because he is damaging the economy with his tariffs. He is doing that. We can hold him accountable for that. We can hold him accountable for destroying relations with South America, doing heinous atrocities in the Caribbean, war crimes, right? He is doing literal war crimes as we speak. We can hold him accountable for all of these things and still call for the Epstein files to be released, call for him to be held accountable, call for him to be impeached, whatever it is, right? We can do all of those things. And I know it feels overwhelming, and I know I come and speak from a lot of privilege when I say this, but we have to do those things. It is our responsibility, if we want to protect our democracy, as fragile and as flawed as it is, if we want to protect these things that we have to do all of those things at once. And you can take breaks, and you can cry, and you can scream, and you can cuss while we're doing it. But we all have a responsibility in our own way, whatever that looks like, to hold him accountable for all of these things, even when it feels exhausting. Especially those of us with an immense amount of privilege in this country. We have a responsibility to hold his ass accountable, and hold Republicans accountable, and frankly hold all of our elected officials accountable, because it's all of our responsibility to fix this mess.
Mm-hmm.
That's my 2025 take.
Yeah, take care of each other and demand accountability from everyone.
Because the government ain't coming to save us. It's going to be you and me and everyone else.
And you know what's crazy? That's the Reid legacy. Get shit done and
take care of each other.
And take care of each other. And hold ourselves accountable. That's the Reid legacy. Not some consultants telling people what to do.
Well, let's end it on a more positive note, right? So we've talked about kind of our hot take of 2025 and the grand dumpster fire that 2025 has been for most people. Let's talk about what is a personal highlight for the year of 2025, because we can't end on a sour note. We got to end on something happy. What's a personal highlight of yours for 2025? For the year we turned 40.
Personal highlight has been getting to go to Honduras with my mom and Argentina. But I want to say Honduras because I knew she would fall in love with one of the most beautiful countries on earth, just naturally. Argentina is also beautiful. All of Latin America is beautiful in its own different ways. It's a vast place, but there's just something about Honduras. It's just, you've never seen nature like that before. And I'd always told myself I always wanted my mom to see it. at least once, and she finally did, and she just loved it. She is always talking about it whenever she talks about that trip. So I'm really happy I got it. What about you?
I am really proud of myself that I made it back up to legislative session myself with my own little business. I'm really, really proud of that, and that I was able to go up there for clients and work with people who are just lovely human beings and incredible, who believe in me. So I'm really proud of that. Like, getting back up to Carson City was a huge, I know I whine a lot about session, but it's a really important part of my life. And like, it was a really important thing for me to get back up there and be able to do my job. And then just like being happy, I did a lot of really cool stuff this year, like the Lantern Festival, which was literally the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Putting that festival together was intense. It was hard. And like the fact that I did it, and I was able to like get through it and do a good job. And I'm really proud of this little business that I've built, and I'm excited for what 2026 holds. I'm really personally and professionally very happy. It's awesome.
Yay.
Even when I have to rage against Donald Trump on a regular basis. But rage fuels me, so it's fine.
That's right. That's right. Let it fuel you.
That's right. So, well, happy holidays, everyone. Happy Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus for the rest of it. Whatever you celebrate, have a happy one. If you just gorge yourself with food, have a happy one. Have a safe one. Hope you and your friends and your family have a great new year. 26. Hope it's better. I don't know what it's going to be, but we'll see. Donald Trump's still the president, so I don't know. But Happy New Year, everyone. We wish you health and love and peace in your own lives and peace around the world. And, we will be back January 12th with the week of January 12th with our next episode after I'm done traveling and we're done celebrating. So Happy New Year, everyone. I hope it's a good one for you. And Maria, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And thank you to my mother for birthing me.
Right.
Yeah, so like Annette said, we will see y'all the week of January 12th. And remember to rate, review, share with your friends. And
Happy New Year, everyone. We'll see you in 2026. Stay safe.
See you next year.